Hey guys, welcome back to the 4x2 Wagon Family Garage, and today we're going to be installing this PSC big dog in our JKU behind us. This video is going to be, well, hopefully it's going to be fairly short, but we are going to show you guys a little bit of installation on how to get this into your Jeep. But right now I want to talk to you guys about why I'm replacing my OE gearbox with the PSC. So one of the biggest challenges that I have to deal with every time I get done wheeling is adjusting my steering after I get off the trail. So there's many reasons why I'm having to do that, and that's primarily, I think it's because I'm running this big 37-inch tire on my Jeep. Plus I'm running about 10 pounds of air, and when you're crawling through rocks, through obstacles, it adds a lot of stress on the steering box. And I'm using a lot of force on the steering wheel to even turn the big tires. So all that adds a lot of stress to the box. Now, if you guys have been following this channel, you guys know that I've been upgrading my Jeep, all the steering components piece by piece, including my suspension, just so that I get a good feel for how each of these pieces work together as a whole. And the only thing that's left that is OE is my gearbox. Now, long story short, this will be my third gearbox I've replaced in my Jeep. The other one that I replaced was just the other two was a remanufactured one. I was trying to be cheap, but I think that's part of the problems why I'm having this issue. If I would have bought a brand new one, I don't think that would have been quite as bad as this reman. As you guys might know, the reman is just as good as a brand new gearbox. But regardless, I really want to take care of this issue that I have every time I get off the trail, and running the stock gearbox just doesn't make sense, because if you guys think about it, your stock gearbox was made for a small 28 or 29-inch tire off the showroom floor. They don't generally come with a 35-inch tire or 37-inch tire for that matter. And plus all the additional weight that you put on here with the new steering and new suspension, just a lot of weight that you just introduced into your Jeep, and you're trying to steer your 5,000 pound Jeep through rocks, through Rubicon. It just doesn't make sense. It just adds a ton of stress. It hasn't happened to me, but I've heard cases where people have broken off the sector shaft and other things. But just know that I've had a lot of problems. That's including broken input shaft. I have broken the clock spring. I've had to, every time I come back from off-road trip like the Rubicon or heavy snow wheeling, I'm always adjusting my steering wheel back to center. So there's always tweaking going on with my steering. That's including, I've had many death wobbles. It may not have been directly related to the gearbox, but yeah, my point is I've had a lot of steering type problems. And so I'm hoping that this PSC, the big bore, will resolve all those issues. I don't know, because I never ran one before, but I can't wait to do another follow-up video and share that information with you guys. So hope you guys will ring that bell down below to get notified. So in this video, I'm going to do, it's kind of hard to get the camera tucked underneath the Jeep to show you guys exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to do my best to capture all that. So I'm going to do a full flush of the power steering fluid, or I'm going to do my best anyways. And then I'm going to try and kind of stitch the videos, so I'm kind of going through the chronological process. So if you guys are doing this yourself, then you guys will have somewhat of a good idea on how to do this. So let's go ahead and open this up so you guys can kind of get a comparison of what the stock and what the PSC looks like. All right, so let's get started. Wow, look at this sector shaft. It's, like I said, it's 10 millimeters thicker than OE. I mean, just look at the girth on that baby. That thing is massive compared to, that looks like a twig, and that looks like a tree trunk. Yeah, they did provide these taps if I want to do hydraulics down the road. So I'm really stoked now. Input shaft there, and this is where the OE line's going to go in right here. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit. So there you go, that's the factory where we're going to put our lines back onto that. Okay, so now look at this compared to that. Let me back up here a little bit. Just massive, pretty impressive. So this pitman arm is special for this box because you can't buy this pitman arm on the market. Isn't that crazy? Simply nuts. To make this job easier, remove some of these plastics out of the way. Because I'm purging my power steering pump, I want to make sure I get everything out of here, so I need to take out some of the hoses. And to do that, you can just remove this air box out of the way. So again, this is not, you don't need to do this, but if you guys are going to change out your pump, might as well clean out all your fluid. So I got my milk jug hanging right here with this bungee cord and empty milk jug. I got my tubing ready to go, and then I'm going to unplug my low pressure line, and hopefully I'm not going to make a big mess. And if I do, I got a bunch of paper towels handy. Okay, so take the bottle, disconnect the bottle, and I'm going to twist this thing, try and twist this guy off. Let's see if I can, oh, here we go, twist it off. I'm going to hold this reservoir upside down so it doesn't splatter everywhere, make a big mess. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to dump this guy. Oh God, look at that fluid, it's like black. All right, so basically I've got my high pressure line and my low pressure line kind of rigged up, and both hoses are going into my milk jug down there. So now I'm going to go in and turn the steering wheel from lock to lock a few times and see if that will circulate the fluid. I'm not really sure, but we'll see. I've also took apart this reservoir, and the filter inside here was so bad you couldn't see inside of it. So now I've got it all cleaned out with some Dove soap, and I took the air compressor air through the reservoir to get all the water out of there. So I'm going to let it sit for a while and then come back and throw more air through the reservoir just to make sure all the water is gone, and then we'll come back here and reinstall everything, and then we'll get back, and then we'll get to our gearbox. Oops. All right. Wow. Look at this, you guys. All right. So this is, let me focus here. Yeah, this is almost, I don't know, it's probably never been changed in its life. That thing is black. All right, so we'll go ahead and get rid of this. All right, so now we're just putting our reservoir back together. It's funny that these hoses to the gearbox have a high pressure connection, but when it comes to the reservoir, it's just these, quick on and off clamps. So that doesn't make sense. Is it because there's more pressure at the gearbox? I don't know. You just pull this out, and you can just put it over here like so. Okay, that's it. All right guys, so at this point I'm ready to start taking things apart on the gearbox. Oh, the wife is home from the gym. So I'm going to do it in this order. I'm going to remove my drag link to the pitman arm, but I'm not going to take the pitman arm apart. I'm going to leave it as is because my new box has their own proprietary heavy duty pitman arm, so we got to use that. There's no other options. And then two, I'm going to come up here and disconnect the high pressure and low pressure line. And then once all of that is out of the way and there's no fluid coming out, things like that, then we'll go over here and start taking the 4 bolts out that's connected to the gearbox. I may use a bungee cord on the gearbox so it doesn't drop straight down, but we'll see. So in case you guys can't see the video really well, that's why I'm explaining it to you guys beforehand. All right, so I'll do my best to get all of this on camera, all right? The drag link is pretty easy to take out. Just a cotter pin on a castle nut. So, since I'm going to be replacing the cotter pin anyways, I'm not going to be too gentle with this thing. I'm just going to yank it out like this. Okay, just like that, and just keep few turns on the thread, so as you bang on that pitman arm, it's not going to drop on your leg. And you grab a hammer. Uh-oh. Did I break my camera? No. There we go. Okay. Oh. Okay, let's put that guy out of the way. And put the castle nut back on. Okay, so there she is. And then, once again, I'm gonna leave the pitman arm on there. All right, so this next one is kind of hard to see, the high pressure and low pressure line. So I'm take my screwdriver here and point to it. So it's this one right here. And then one right to the, just to the right of it, it's right there. So you can see that the top of the line is these two, okay? So I know you guys can't see that very well because it's deep down in here and it's dark, but this is a 18 millimeter open box. And because there's really no room in here, you got to do this, you know, slowly, just a little turn at a time, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mark these line real quick so I know which one is high, which one is low. Okay, I'm just going to use this blue tape to indicate this is my high pressure. Okay, and just get that out of the way. Okay, so now that we got the input shaft disconnected, the high pressure line, low pressure line off the pump is disconnected. So that's all there's to it. And now we're ready to remove these 4 bolts. These are 18 millimeters. And I forgot to get to the bottom bolts. You need to disconnect your sway bar because the sway bar is right in line with this bottom bolt. So this is the dual rate coil springs. And to get to that, well, I'll show you in a little bit how to get to these back bolts without having to pull the whole spring out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the sway bar. Okay, I already broke the top one there. Okay, so I'm gonna back this thing out almost all the way. I'll leave a couple threads in there. Okay. Okay, now for the fun part. The trick here is you'll need a high lift jack. And I borrowed this from a buddy because I don't ever had the need for a high lift jack except for this right here. Okay, and then basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift up, expand the coil, the spring, and then as you go up, what's gonna happen is that this whole spring and axle is gonna wanna kind of spring or move to the back side, kind of bending that spring to the back, and then we'll get access to that, to those 2 bolts. And again, when you're doing this, make sure you got all the safety devices in place, like your wheel chock. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's give it a go. Okay, so you guys kind of see how the spring is bending back a little bit. Let me go up a little bit more to get some tension off that spring. Okay, so I'm going to use a 18 millimeter wrench, and I got another wrench right here, a 17 millimeter. I'm going to use this as a leverage to break this bolt. I don't like sticking my hand in there, just in case if the jack snaps. I want to be in and out of there as quickly as possible. Okay, I think that's pretty much off. So oh, shoot. Okay, come on. Okay, there's two. And I think that's basically kind of hanging by a thread. Okay, I think, yep, oh, there it goes. I had to call a friend to have him come out and help me get this PSC box in there. It was a real SOB doing it by myself. So basically there are two bolts that's supplied by PSC. These are smaller bolts, and so you got to use that for the front and then your factory for the rear. And as you guys can see here, the key here to get to these back bolts, if you have this dual rate springs, is to use a high lift jack. And then once you do that, it's going to pull up on the control arms and it's going to suck your axle and your spring back this way, which gives you plenty of clearance to get into those back bolts and whatnot. So just wanted to share that with you guys. Started to get all that on a video, and I didn't want to, do a video with other guys here. So just want to give you a quick look, give you a quick view of what it looks like, okay? You want to torque these 4 bolts down to 70 foot-pounds. The bad thing about this is now you got 2 different sizes. You got the 18 millimeter for the factory and a 19 for the PSC shorter bolts. Okay. Ah. Okay. Okay, and the last bolt that's on the inner upper side, I'm gonna have to use a little different. Use a smaller wrench. Come on. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so I think the hard part is done. Now we can lower this guy down. Okay, so first of all, yesterday when I was bleeding the power steering line and the pump and all the fluid out of the system, had that 1 gallon jug down there. One thing that you didn't really get to see was that to do that job, I had a jack under the axles and I rotated the tires full lock to lock quite a few times. By turning the steering wheel lock to lock, that allows the pump and all the fluids to circulate, and that's how you're able to get the fluid out of the system. All right guys, so now we're under the Jeep and we're looking at this sector shaft with the gearbox housing, and if you guys can see those 2 red lines, it's really important that before you button everything up, that those 2 lines has to line up on top of each other, okay? And then secondly, the pivot arm then will go right over these splines, and it should kind of fit something like, let me show you guys real quick here. It should fit something like, so there's kind of like this orientation. Okay, there's this way or this way. This is the way you want it. You want it for it to be like a drop bracket. So kind of like that in this orientation. And let me just show you real quick with one hand. And as I was saying earlier, this thing basically goes on one way. There's 4 splines that are cut out at 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 and 9, and they just slide in just like that. And this is about where you want the pivot arm to sit, is right here, okay, inside of the frame. All right guys, so for the next part, we're gonna need to torque down that the nut on the pivot arm and to the gearbox, and you're gonna need a socket that's 1 13/16, or I have a big set of these Curls wrench, which is super helpful, and you can buy these on what do you call it, Harbor Freight, for a few bucks. So yeah, 13/16, and you're gonna want to torque that big daddy down to 225 foot-pounds. So, and the one thing I didn't mention early on is that all the bolts I'm putting back, I'm using some Loctite. So I highly recommend you guys use Loctite on everything on your Jeep, just so that it doesn't vibrate off, okay? So I got that already torqued down, and then I've already adjusted my drag link here, and my steering is all straight, good to go. I got my input shaft put on way up there. It's hard to see, I know. Okay, and then the last thing left to do for me is actually take these rubber or plastic caps off the top of these hole where these lines will go in. Okay, so so there you go, and you can just discard that, and you guys can see now probably just a little better those holes. There you go, right there. There's one, and there's. Let me change that here. There's one, and there's two. They just screw right in, and after that, we're pretty much on the home stretch, putting the fluid in and bleeding out the lines. So I'm gonna go do this off camera, and then we'll come back. So I got the drag link on the pitman arm, and if you guys want to see a more in-depth video on this, because while you're doing this, this is where you need to consider if your steering wheel is straight once you get everything back together. So this is going to be a whole different video, but basically, if you to get that capsule nut on there while your sway bar is down, you can come right through this section right here, okay, with a crescent wrench, and get it tightened up, and then make sure you guys put in a new cotter pin. So that's that. All right, guys, so that pretty much concludes this video. We got everything put together. Everything else is just a little stuff like getting the steering wheel lined up, and then flushing out and getting all the bubbles out of your power steering line. So things like that. So if you guys want to see another video on all that, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to do a video on how to do those two things. If you guys made it this far in the video, so I just want to go through and explain to you guys why I chose not to install the high volume power steering pump, and also the hydraulic assist, a RAM. So one, I really want to see what this gearbox will do when we go to Rubicon here coming up without any additional parts. So then if you guys may not have the funds, the means to purchase additional or pay additional $500 for the power steering pump, so then I can provide you guys some good intel and let you know whether or not if you need that heavy duty pump or not. But just know that if you guys do install that power steering pump, it does give you a 35% more efficiency. Now with that, you'll need to buy, or they'll give you in the whole kit is about $500, the hydraulic lines, the reservoir, and also the pulley, the belt, and the pump. So that's a pretty good deal to get additional 35% in performance. And then number two, the reason why I have no plans at this point to install the RAM assist is because, from what I understand and doing some research and talking to other people, they have felt like they have lost the feel of the road when they're driving down the highway. And so in other words, it's a very soft feeling, right? Because now you got the RAM assist and you can steer your Jeep super easy. And I don't want that, because I have something similar to that in my Toyota minivan. It's got electric assist steering, and I absolutely hate it. It feels like my van is floating around, and it sucks. Now, if I ever decide to go to a 40-inch tire and really beef up my Jeep even bigger with maybe a 1-ton axles and things like that, then I might definitely consider the RAM. But for right now, I'm going to keep it like this and then keep building on slowly, so that I can provide you guys with some progressive information rather than just putting everything in there at once. Then of course that would probably be the best, but I'm a kind of guy that likes to do things piece by piece so that I fully understand how each of these pieces performs on a Jeep, or any other rig for that matters. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful, and I'm sorry it's kind of long, but I hope you guys found it useful. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave it down below, and I'll get back to you guys on all that. So until next time, God bless, be safe out there in the COVID world, and we'll see you guys hopefully on the trail.